Hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel, Ascension Tips. So for this video, I would like to go into a little bit of storytelling. First of all, a little bit of background. If you're from overseas, here in Perth, Western Australia, we have just come out of a 3-day lockdown over the long weekend, the Anzac long weekend. And we hadn't been experiencing any lockdowns since beginning of last year. So we've been one of the best places on the entire planet to be in. So we've been exceptionally blessed. Anyway, this weekend just gone, which was also the Scorpio full moon, super moon, so a lot of energy. I was perceiving, feeling and hearing the energy coming in all weekend, and it was a lot. And it was really good to rest. And the lockdown was just what many people needed: the time to rest, the permission to stop, to slow down. Okay. Now, there's many points to make here, so I'm going to be bouncing all around the place because I've been finding it hard to try and direct myself into how to navigate these videos, because there's so much to touch upon. There's so much for us to expose ourselves to. There's so much to learn. There's so much for us to open our minds to and open our hearts to, and it's a lot. I won't lie to you. Spiritual awakening it's pretty full on, and it's been pretty full on for me, like for quite a while now. So a little bit of storytelling to begin with, if you don't mind. So I'd only just started a new job recently, and it was quite positive actually. So I was rigging again for a company down in Henderson. So quite a drive each morning and afternoon. And I really struggled getting up for work on Tuesday morning, in the sense that I just really felt how much it doesn't make sense to still be continuing along on these old paradigms, these old, outdone, outdated matrix, the old matrix paradigms of working for the system. These systems that were built to enslave us, basically. Whether you believe that or not, they were built to take your time, to put you to work, and to enslave you. And of course, everything from our old world, and I say old world because it's dying now, it's changing, everything's changing. Everything was created with their own agendas. And the energies that are here, the energies that those systems were created upon, don't exist anymore. So those systems are all crumbling and collapsing. Now, whilst the lockdown was positive for many people to be able to have a rest, on Tuesday morning, I drove to work, and I was feeling so strongly how much I was desiring freedom. Freedom's a very big one for me. And so I was strongly connecting whilst driving, putting out the call to the Galactic Federation, to the higher realms, to our galactic and celestial and angelic brothers and star sisters, to source energy, to the ascended masters, the ascended realms. And it was very powerful, because here's one ascension tip. As you learn that you're not alone in the universe, that there are angelic beings of all types in all different dimensional realities, and I've been connecting strongly with the Arcturians, which are incredible benevolent beings, and they exist in all the dimensions. So I've been connecting strongly with the 9th dimensional Arcturian Council, which are non-physical beings, and yeah, they're celestial beings, and they're like angelics, you know. It's like it's just different dimensional realms. Anyway, as we learn that we're not alone, we will learn that there's universal laws, and that these other benevolent beings who have had evolutionary histories, journeys, much more longer than ours. You know, star systems that are billions and sometimes trillions of years older than ours. And if those beings made it through their evolutionary history, they made it through love. Some forces in the universe made it through the opposite of love, through tyranny and war. But all the loving beings that are out there made it through love and light and unity and oneness and compassion and understanding and sharing and caring and being in the heart. And you will learn that as a young species, as a young race that we are, all the beings that want to assist us, and there's so many of them, you know, it's going to be so much fun to introduce ourselves more to all of them, to become more aware of it, to have our own experience of it, because it's a really incredible part of spiritual awakening. So you will learn that they've got their own laws, like, for example, the law of non-interference. You know, it's better for a young species to learn to be to have non-interference. Don't interfere with them. They can learn their own lessons, right? It's the best way to evolve over time. But we've been interfered with a lot in our history. But the benevolent beings won't help unless we ask for help. So I found myself asking for help. Now, another ascension tip here. When you manifest, when you call upon assistance, you're drawing upon that intention. Everything is intention, right? And you're drawing upon that attention with your emotional force, your emotional energy driving it. That's like 2 parts of the recipe. Using emotional energy, which is very strong, very creational energy, with your focused intent, your willpower. So I was driving for 36, 37 minutes to work and talking strongly to them. And it was a big prayer, a big calling in of assistance for the collective, for us all to have more assistance in, like, to the Galactic Federation, to the higher realms, the ascended realms, the archangels, the angelic realms, the celestial realms, the galactic realms, the multidimensional realms, all benevolent beings of love and light. And I was talking to them, and it was so emotional, it was so strong and driven. It was a real moment. And you got to catch those moments. If you find yourself in a moment where you're really feeling it, you're feeling open, and you're feeling like calling in something or manifesting it, jump on it. It's not always easy to tap into emotional power upon our will and intent just when we want to. It's something we will eventually learn, and we'll have to learn. It's part of the new paradigm, the new structure of the 5th dimension where we're all heading. So anyway, it was very powerful. And then I got to work, and all the guys were standing there forming the circle for a pre-start, and they're all wearing masks. Now, I don't watch any media. I don't even own a TV anymore. I don't look out. I stopped looking at what the world's doing and started focusing on internally what I'm doing, my journey. What's my part in co-creation? So I didn't have a clue that even though the lockdown was finished the night before, that they had they had said that you have to wear masks for the next week. So I got really triggered. I saw everyone wearing masks. And then eventually after the pre-start, the supervisor said to me, he's like, "Oh, what's going on? You not wearing a mask?" I'm like, "I'm not wearing a mask, mate." He's like, "Well, company policy, you have to go home." I'm like, "No worries. I'll go home." And I grabbed my stuff and I walked out and I jumped in my car and I was about to drive off, and he actually came over and he said, "Oh, look, I don't mean you have to, go like you're gone. Just come back when they take the ban off the masks, when they lift the mask mandate. I want to call it. I don't know if it's a mandate." And and I said, "When's that?" And he said, "Oh, by Friday night." I'm like, "All right, no worries, sweet." I'm like, "Cool." So there I was. I just manifested the freedom that I was desiring for the collective. It was like, boom. If you desire some freedom, there it is right now. What do you choose? And I chose to take it. Now, obviously, you can pick that to pieces because we all have different lives, different journeys, and not all of us can just do that. I understand that. Your journey is your journey, my journey is my journey. I'm just explaining and sharing my journey, and there's reasons for that. And wow. I was like, wow, guys, that was quick. That was really quick. Now we always have options. We always have options. It depends on us what options we want to align with, what decisions, what choices we choose to make. Now, in that moment, I saw that as like calling upon the heavens for strong assistance in bringing everyone financial abundance, to be free, to be able to sleep in, to rest their bodies, to heal, to feel what they're feeling, to learn to love themselves, to have fun, to have sex, to have pleasure, to have adventure, to connect with their loved ones, to have time in nature. It was very powerful. And then it was like, boom, you want freedom? There it is right now. Here you've got a couple of timelines. Are you going to, Stuart, pretend like you are wanting to conform and suffocate yourself with these masks for no fucking reason at all? And there is no reason. The masks don't do anything. You're all being fooled, but it's up to you what you're going to believe. But it's quite the opposite. You're restricting your airflow. You're recirculating your carbon dioxide, which is something you expel. You're supposed to expel carbon dioxide. You're deoxygenating your body and putting your body in more risk of a disease state, right? So you're actually fucking your health. The masks don't do anything, right? A virus that wants to get around will get around. It doesn't just... a virus doesn't go, oh, that guy's running, I won't touch him. Or that's a child, I won't touch them. Or... Anyway, there's a lot to it, you know. I'm sure people are starting to awaken to this. And I, for one, am not going to suffocate myself with a mask or conform or comply for anyone. Not for anyone. I've come too far in my own journey, and I've experienced a lot of really real paraphenomena, magical, unexplainable, physical, even ET, galactic, multi-dimensional experiences, and I'm going to be explaining a lot of them as we go on as well. I've come too far to bow down and conform to an old, dying, negatively orientated agenda, and we'll explain that further as well. So I'm like, cool, I'm going home. I went home and I'm like, right. And as I was driving home, I was getting all these downloads. I was receiving so much downloads of like, I was feeling so powerful. I was feeling like a pillar of light, and I was even sensing, I'm like, wow, okay, there's been some really big shifts lately, particularly for me for this full moon, because my Scorpio is rising. And it's been quite good for me. And I felt like I could do this with love as well. I could not only be who I am meant to be here as a beacon of light, as a way shower in these darker times of rapid ascension Earth, in this consciousness shift that we're in. I can do this. I can share. I can teach. I can help heal. I can share what I've experienced and what I'm learning from them, and what I've learned myself, and what my soul is remembering and already knows about all this. I can do this, and I can do it with love. I've been doing a lot of healing. It's been hard. It's been really hard. And the more you heal, the more layers come up, and the more trauma, and it's been pretty full on. And I've been having some shifts constantly, but like even just over this long weekend, some big shifts. And I was driving, and I felt so powerful. I'm like, right, I'm going to make another video. And I didn't make it yesterday. I even went to the beach, had a swim to do some thinking and processing, and turned my phone off. And as I even turned my phone back on, as soon as I turned my phone on, there was a phone call, answered it, and there was a job interview at another interview for another job that I went to today. And I was like, I didn't feel it, but I thought that's quite synchronistic, you know. When I went to the interview today, I didn't even think. I didn't take my mask. I'm not wearing a mask. And for any of you out there that are triggered, that are sitting there watching the media day in, day out, being brainwashed by that crap. Those owned corporations that have quite dark agendas from the people that own them at the very top. We're talking about people that orchestrate the economies, that write the education systems, that start wars, that spread misinformation and propaganda and drive everything into fear so they can control you and dominate you. This is a big part of our history, people, here on the planet. It's a big part, and we're going to talk about that more as well. And I went to this interview, and man, they were, they're like, "Where's your mask?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't have one." Like, "Oh, you can't, you gotta leave the shop." I'm like, "Oh, I'm here for an interview." "Where's your mask?" I'm like, I don't own one." I'm like, I can't wear one. I'm not wearing one. Like, "You have your exemption?" I'm like, "No, I don't have an exemption yet." And they're like, "Okay." And they went and asked the lady but doing the interview, and she's like, "Well," and they're like, "All right, you have to leave." I'm like, "Okay, you don't want to do the interview, that's fine." And then the other lady behind the counter was like, "Here, do you want to wear a little thin one for the interview?" I'm like, "All right, I'm curious about the interview." But the environment, these people, these young dudes were the energy straight away, it was so intense to see how people are so programmed, so conditioned, so easily to believe the narrative that you're being fed, this fear-driven narrative. Now, I understand a lot of people are passing around the world from the virus, right? But we also have, and I say we because I've been learning from the Arcturians, even the manifestation of the virus and why that's playing out. And just to touch on that quickly, it's our collective timeline. Each one of our souls is part of this collective consciousness. We're all a one species. We're all connected to some degree, right? We are. And it's our consciousness that creates our reality. And as a collective, it's like a consensus consciousness. Now, it's for that reason that the darker parts of history that were always manipulated and orchestrated, we are very powerful beings. And it's for that reason that they wanted to and did and have been and are trying their best to finally put the seal on the deal to control our consciousness, to direct it, to direct how the earth plane and how the earth and our timelines that we create, how it all plays out. There's a lot to talk about eventually. And I thought to myself, these guys, they were so ready to just jump down my throat and just like fear, like, "Nah, you are not allowed in here, you're out of the shop." They couldn't even think for themselves. No one could think for themselves, like, why are we saying this? Why are we just believing everything we've been told? And this is a really big point. Everyone has to really start to learn discernment and start to awaken and think outside the box. Think outside what that box, the TV, and whatever else you're exposing yourself to and believing in is telling you. You have to start questioning more. You have to open your minds and think to yourself, are these masks doing anything other than actually recirculating my carbon dioxide and deoxygenating my body, creating more disease, more states for disease to flourish in my body? Because it's a form of domination and control and fear-driven. You're being taught to conform and to comply, and that's a very important point. So anyway, didn't like that place. I'm like, no, okay, that wasn't the synchronicity I was thinking it was. But I was very much in flow yesterday. It was a big moment of flow, and it was powerful. And I've been struggling today to try and understand how to go about this share. So I'm probably going to wrap it up soon, and I'm going to try my best to get into more of a flow of these videos and start touching on all the different points, and I'm going to write them down and get some sort of a structure. But basically, if you want to know what is the point of me sharing this? It's because me personally, on my own journey in these years of spiritually awakening, I've experienced so much. And there's many people out there that are experiencing so much. There always has been on the planet. But, it's not so talked about because, there's a lot of ego and it's a lot of fear, people talking about the unknown. But now it's becoming more normal. And you're gonna be able to talk to people, and people are gonna share their experiences of what they're experiencing. And on my journeys, I've been experiencing so much over the years, so much in so many different ways. I've got such a large variation of unexplainable experiences, and I've integrated so much and remembering so much of what my soul has already learned before. So I'm like, I've come so far, I'm like, I'm not doing it. I'm not participating anymore. I understand the dark forces here on the planet. I understand them. I understand even that I've been them before in other lifetimes and probably in other parts of the galaxy. The Arcturians teach us this, is that your soul, eventually, if your soul is old enough, you're going to want to have all the experiences. Sounds like our souls are a little bit egotistical, driven at times, a little bit fucking sickos. Sorry for the swearing, but it's like, okay, you want to have all the experiences? All right, no worries. So here we are. I understand these dark, nefarious agendas that are hidden, but becoming more obvious for us to see now, because they're dying. They're losing their grip because of this ascension process that we're in, where the planet is raising its vibrational frequency. So I've had that many experiences connecting with higher frequency beings, galactic beings, archangels. That's beautiful. It's all beautiful. It's all incredible. Feeling and perceiving their vibrational frequency, and being touched by beings, being physically touched, seeing physical light, seeing movement, seeing fairies, seeing Arcturian light physically. Not in my mind's eye, physically. And seeing a spaceship, like seeing many ships in the skies these days. If you want to have some UFO experiences, go outside and call it in. Call in the experiences. Multi-dimensional moments won't always be what you think they're going to be. They quite often aren't. But they're going to get your brain juiced up. They're going to get you thinking, oh, what was that? It was because it's easing you into it. But I mean, I've seen the full. I've had so many experiences, and I can't wait to share all of that with you. So I've come so far. I'm not going to participate anymore in the madness of the planet. I'm fucking done. I'm not putting on a mask and suffocating myself because of all of your fear out there, because you guys are awakening. And I say that with love, but once you eventually have enough of your own experiences, and you awaken enough, and you learn more, and you learn enough to actually finally get past the tipping point where you're actually like, okay, I can't question this anymore. There's something really big happening here on the planet. And we're going to talk about that as well. We're going to talk about everything eventually. So I'm like, nah, I'm not doing it. I'm not participating in the madness of the planet anymore. Now, I've pretty much lost that job, and that's fine. I'm in a position where I can do that because I've been working on manifesting, and I have been showing myself, teaching myself that I'm able to manifest to a degree, and I'm constantly trying to learn and expand into that. I've already manifested financial abundance in many different ways, which I will share as well. And I'm aligning more with, letting go of the fear and trusting more. So I'm personally in a position where I was able to do that. But the point being is there has to come a point where you don't participate in the madness of the planet anymore. You have to shed your conditioning, all that you've learned. This is what going into the fifth dimension is asking us, because it's a whole new frequency range. It's a whole new dimensional frequency range where we're going. You're being asked to shed everything, leave everything behind that you've ever learned to know and to be true, because it's all changing. The whole lot is changing, right? all of it. And eventually you're going to have to get to a point where you're going to have to be brave and courageous and trust and have faith in the universe and your own abilities to co-create what you want to create, and go, no, I'm not conforming or complying to your fear-driven agendas, your negatively orientated agendas of tyranny and domination and control and divide and conquer and separate everyone, because it's always been played out like that. The dark forces are extremely good at what they do, and they do it subtly, and they do it, now it's becoming more obvious. And that was it. I got to a point where I'm like, no, I've come too far. I've had physical ET contact. I'm not doing this bullshit. They're teaching me what this is all about. There's many people on the planet that you can turn to that are awakening, that are learning from higher frequency beings in higher realms, in other dimensions, including multidimensional beings and intergalactics, and there's a bit of everything. Know that everything exists, and there's a reason why you haven't had certain experiences yet, but they are coming. Okay, otherwise you wouldn't be watching this, plain and simply. So I'm going to leave it at that. And I hope that more of you can find the courage and the strength to go, I know that these masks don't do anything. I know that that these governments are pushing this agenda to put an injection of an experimental cocktail of God knows what into your body that has no one has any knowledge of what the long-term effects are. This DNA altering injection of God knows what, and it's like, you really got to be careful where you give your power to, because as you're going to learn about the history that's always been on the planet, is that there was always a darker agenda being driven behind the scenes, and those forced vaccinations are a big part of that. And you have to choose. You have to be careful what you choose, because there's some very big lessons coming to all of us on the planet. What timeline do you choose to put yourself on? Do you wish to give your power away to a perceived authority that has got you in fear, that if you don't do that you will be locked out of all society and all the perks of being alive, and that you will have everyone around you shunning you and making you feel guilty and shameful for not being in the same fear state that they are, because I know, of course everyone's in a fear state because no one wants to die. Everyone loves. We all love each other. We're actually incredible beings. But it's all a lie. Alright? And that's what you're awakening to. You're awakening to out of the dark deceit and into the light. We're coming more into love. We're starting to awaken, and there's a lot to be shared. So I love you all, and I look forward to the next video. Please like if you like. If you don't, do whatever you want. Subscribe, share. I'm hoping to get some big coverage with these shares, because yeah, it gets a bit confusing, but I've learned a lot over the years, and I'm looking at expanding constantly, growing constantly, and sharing more, so that I may be in service to any seeking any guidance or any encouragement or any wisdom, or anyone seeking a light to draw upon at this time, to be in service to all for the divine highest and best of all. And that's my intention. So love you all, and I'll speak to you all soon. See ya.